The Nigerian government likes to lie to itself. And they also like to pretend that things are better than they actually are. And by doing so, if the Nigerian government says it doesn't exist, well, then the rest of the world says it doesn't exist. And that means Nigeria looks better on paper.
This video that you're about to watch, my people, I'm urging you to watch this video to the very end of it, because this video is just quite a bit long. It's just a 20 minutes long or thereabout. So I'm urging you to watch it to the very end of it, because what you're about to watch will be a great shock to you. There is this one organization where they call Truth Nigeria. This Truth Nigeria have been operating since APC resumed office. Yes, the founder of this organization is one powerful journalist way from the United Kingdom. Yes, now he established this organization. Thank God that this source is from the people that created this country. So I'm urging you to pay good close attention and watch this video to the very end of it, because what you are about to hear will be a great shock to you, because the Nigerian politicians have been deceiving the world since all this while, but on this one they can never get away with it. So I'm urging you to tag Rino Mokare, the chief ambassador for lies, and also the Senate president, which is the Senate for propaganda, who come out to begin to accuse IPOP as the people committing genocide against the Christians. So my people, I want you to watch this video to the very end, because what you are about to watch, it is a first time in the history of Nigeria for truth like this to surface. Please, let's watch it.
Why does the Nigerian government not acknowledge the existence of these people?
There's a few different reasons. One of the main reasons is the Nigerian government likes to lie to itself. And they also like to pretend that things are better than they actually are. And by doing so, if the Nigerian government says it doesn't exist, well, then the rest of the world says it doesn't exist. And that means Nigeria looks better on paper for whatever reason. And it's like a dog and pony show that the Nigerian government likes to play.
Well, if you admit to the world that Christians are being systematically and intentionally massacred on your watch and cleansed from the land as they are being, then you have to do something about it. The world expects you to do something about it.
Well, then you're supposed to do something about it. So there's the other part of this, is that, yes, the Nigerian government is complicit, especially in the last, 8 years with 2 Muslim presidents in a row, where they have turned a blind eye to the killings and have done nothing to stop it.
Well, when they actually know that killings are going to happen and they don't intervene.
Yes, and that's one of the things. So as part of our organization, we created Truth Nigeria, a outlet for journalists in Nigeria to tell the truth, because the Nigerian government doesn't want this information getting out. And if the Nigerian government doesn't say the story's getting out, they're not reporting it. And so we want to give an outlet to Truth Nigeria. So part of that project is we've been able to get intelligence and issue terror alerts. And so in 2024, we issued over 64 terror alerts.
And you issue a terror alert when what is happening?
So when we issue a terror alert, the police are notified, military is notified, local government officials are notified, the villages are notified, and
they're notified of what?
That there's an impending attack coming to your area.
And how do you know that?
Intelligence.
From having your ear to the ground.
From having
locally.
your ear to the ground. We have our organizations operating in villages all over Nigeria, and people talk, people know things, and we've told people, if you hear something, you hear something, see something, let us know.
Okay, so just so people understand, you have your organization Equipping the Persecuted.
Yes.
And that does what exactly?
So Equipping the Persecuted was formed to be a boots-on-the-ground mission to respond to the attacks of persecuted Christians. So to the best of our ability and the resources we have, we try to respond to an attack within 48 hours with food, medicine, aid, anything we can do to help these people that have lost everything they had. And a lot of it, because when the villages are burned and razed to the ground, all the food supply is destroyed. They have no sleeping mats. They're just left with the clothes on their backs. And so the first thing they need is food. They need medicine. And then what became a big part of our mission is we now really help the wounded victims that are still surviving. So We pay for the medical costs of the surgeries. We send doctors in to treat the wounded,
Wow.
to help the kids that have machete wounds, bullet wounds. We try to patch them up and save as many lives as possible.
So you have that on the one side, and then you decided to invest in Truth Nigeria, which is an extraordinary journalism site.
Yes.
Anyone who follows me, you probably have seen it on my feed. I put your stories out and your work out because there really isn't. I mean, there's a couple of people. A great guy, Tom Garba, and he has TG News, and he's worked, with the journalists of Truth Nigeria in the past.
Yes.
These guys are kind of all cut from the same cloth. They live and work in this extraordinarily violent and dangerous area where Christians are being hunted every single day, and yet they go out and they document the massacres and not just the killings, but the infrastructure and mechanism of the genocide.
Yeah.
Which involves, like you said, killing the food supply, right? So launching an attack right before the crops are about to be harvested.
Exactly.
And destroying everything.
Right. So that's one of the tactics that they use for terror is they'll wait till the farmers plant the crops, grow the crops, and right before harvest, they'll come in, kill the village, they'll destroy all the crops. I mean, it's a form of terror that is demoralizing because
you've got nothing left.
Because they have nothing left. And they worked hard all year long to raise these crops, and now they're completely destroyed.
Well, that's the thing that people don't realize, right? In America, you can just go to the store, you get whatever you want all year round. Over there, these people, where they live, there is nothing. There is no industry or anything. The crops are how they survive. They sell that crop once a year, and they live off that money for the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year. So, if you don't mind me going into this for a second, let's talk about what real poverty looks like. Okay, a lot of Americans and Westerners have a very, very perverted view of what poverty is. And Nigeria poverty means if you have a good job in Nigeria, you make $100 a month. That's a good job in Nigeria, $100 a month. That means you're successful. $100 a month. Now, imagine all that being taken away from you. You don't have television, you don't have power, they don't have running water. But making $100 a month means you're providing really good for your family, and all that's gone. Now you have nothing left. That is the terror that these Muslim terrorists are inflicting on Nigerian Christians.
And also the terror of being asleep in your bed at night.
Yeah.
And hearing the motorbikes, because these terrorists, they like to come in on motorbikes, and then they just massacre everything that moves.
Anything that moves, and the people that get killed most of the time are the ones that can't run fast enough, and that's the children and the elderly.
The pregnant moms.
The pregnant moms, the children, the elderly. And that's one of the most heartbreaking things that I see is what kind of animal would hack up a little child to death with a machete. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you shoot a mother who's pregnant? Why would you burn an elderly person alive? This is the kind of stuff we are dealing with every week in Nigeria, and it's silent.
Well, I know when I was reporting on this a few years ago, there was over, around 100,000 people already killed in this genocide, Christians.
Yes.
And then, and now it's much more than that. And all the journalists I talk to, in Truth Nigeria, they all say the numbers are going up. It's escalating.
Yeah, it's escalating. It's escalating more and more, and it's being downplayed more and more even by the Nigerian government. There's so many. If it weren't for Truth Nigeria, you wouldn't hear about 90% of the attacks.
100%.
If there weren't for Truth Nigeria, you wouldn't hear about it. And let me tell you, one of the reasons I started Truth Nigeria is just because of my background in being a filmmaker, being a person who has a quest for truth. I ran into our journalists like Masara Kim, like Lawrence Zango, and Mike O'Day, and I saw guys who don't care. They're willing to risk it all. They're willing to risk their lives to bring people the truth. That's the kind of people we have at Truth Nigeria. They're willing to lay it all on the line. I'm like, if they're willing to lay it all on the line, I'm willing to support you. I'm willing to support these efforts to get the truth out. And why? Because at the end of the day, they're willing to risk their lives to save their country and to save their fellow Christians.
You know, the first time I interviewed Masara Kim, one of the things he said to me that I never forgot was, I said, Masara, you know, you're right there living in these villages, right in this area where they're killing Christians, and you're exposing it.
Yeah.
I said, you know, aren't you worried you're going to be killed? And he said, oh, Mom, he said, I am very lucky. Most of my friends are dead. And he said, I have already lived, you know, longer than the rest of them. And, you know, he was just basically telling me he was on borrowed time. And Lawrence Zongo told me, it's not a question of if, it's when.
It's when.
So it's not just about being brave. It's really continuing to do the right thing and expose this all in a situation where you fully accept that what you're doing will result in your death at some point.
Right. And they're willing to risk their lives to do
it
this.
anyway.
To do it anyway. And they're men after my own heart. And I said, anything we can do to help, anything we can do to get the word out, to let people know what's going on. And historically, we're documenting history.
You are documenting history. Very, very true, because really the world would have no idea. And that's in part because the media in Nigeria is pretty much like the media here in the U.S. They sit in the capital cities like in Abuja, and they parrot the government narrative, and they don't go out and witness the killings. They're not in the villages. They have no idea what's going on, but they write with absolute confidence that it's fake news and conspiracy.
Let me walk you through how Nigeria news operates.
Okay.
It's one of the most silly things I've ever seen, and it's laughable, but it's also super depressing at the same time. So, in order to get a story out of Nigeria and get it in Nigerian news, a government official has to call a press conference. And when the government official calls a press conference, that means the journalist can then show up, because all the journalists are getting money from the government to cover the stories. So if said government official doesn't hold a press conference, the story never happened, the incident it doesn't exist.
It's incredible. And, you know, I have to say this because this will really, I think, help people understand what we're dealing with here. For years, the narrative of the Nigerian government has been parroted by the U.S. government. Yes. And they have literally blamed the killings on climate change.
Oh, my God.
I know it sounds incredible, climate change. And the reason they say that is because the people carrying out these attacks, the Fulani, who are mostly members of the Fulani tribe, which is a nomadic Islamic tribe, they say they're being forced to migrate because of climate change. And as they're moving south, because the north of Nigeria obviously is Muslim and the south is Christian predominantly, and so as they're moving south from the north of the country, they're going into these Christian areas, and that's where these clashes are happening.
Yeah, so let me explain this real fast for the average viewer.
You just have to take a moment and think about the absolute devastation and the goal of the United States Embassy, successive ambassadors, to literally pass this off as climate change. I don't think that there's a hell miserable enough for people like that.
Oh, they're going to be suffering eternal judgment for what they've done here on earth and their complicity and willful ignorance. Let me explain how this works as far as the farmer-herder clash and then climate change, whatever you want to call it. I can assure you that when the Fulani ethnic militia, the Muslim terrorists, go into Christian villages, they're not coming in with cattle. They're coming in on motorcycles with AK-47s and killing everything that moves, and then destroying and razing the entire village.
And yelling Allahu Akbar
while doing it. And it has nothing to do with climate change. These are nomadic herders that have 500-year-old view of cattle farming, which just takes cattle and roams them wherever they want to roam them, regardless of whose property or land they're on. They have no idea what a ranch is. They have no idea what modern farming is or what modern cattle raising is. But the fact is they don't care. It's not about. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with they are systematically taking over Nigeria, and they want to make Nigeria into a Muslim caliphate. Okay.
Well, and well, if you go back historically, people don't realize that the capital of the Muslim north of Nigeria, Sokoto, was actually the capital of the first caliphate outside. Right when Usman bin Fodio, the first caliph, established the caliphate. So that was one of the earliest jihads.
Right, it was one of the earliest jihads, but then the rest of the tribes people in Nigeria and the other tribes that said, hey, we don't want this, defeated them and shoved them back up north.
Yeah.
And then Nigeria was majority Christian.
Yes,
for a long time.
There were African religions,
yeah.
But the British obviously came and brought Christianity.
But when they brought Christianity, Nigeria was 70% Christian.
Amazing.
Now it's 50-50. It's 50% Muslim, 50% Christian.
Because they've been killing.
Because they have been going back to their systematic jihad. Now, look, Islam has conquered every civilization it's touched since 640 AD through 3 methods of jihad. 1, cultural jihad. We'll move in, we'll blend in with the population as we're a minority. Then they start gaining a population, having lots of kids. Then once they get a population, they do political jihad. All right?
And cultural.
Then cultural jihad. Then after political jihad, once they have the political cover to do the violence, they go into violent jihad and take over territory. And that is how they have systematically taken over all of northern Africa.
Across the border, right? I mean, throughout the center and east of Africa and west.
And for some magical reason, every country they touch turns into war.
Yes, and when you
turns into genocide and turns into war. Every country that they touch ends up turning into genocide and war.
So in many ways, it's a power grab for the Fulani under the black flag of Al Qaeda and Islamic Jihad and the authority of God, right?
Under the authority of God.
And the U.S. helps them.
The U.S. helps them, and
by blaming it on climate change.
By blaming it on climate change or turning a blind eye to doing it, and
putting a Band-Aid on a little bit of the humanitarian needs, but not fundamentally changing anything.
And say they're helping. So I want to go back to Mahanga. I'm going to tell you something you probably don't know, but in Mahanga, right, the place where they're launching attacks from,
that village,
the Norwegians have just been building new houses for terrorists.
Wow, the Norwegian Refugee Council?
Yeah, the Norwegian government has been building new houses and for people in Mahanga.
You cannot make it up.
They're building they're building terrorist new houses in Mahanga as we speak.
The same village where not a single Christian has been allowed to set foot
if you go near
since that first massacre.
Yeah, if you go near it, you get killed.
Yes, I mean, I know because when I was reporting on this story, doing this documentary film for Fox Nation, one of the things, Masara Kim, I asked him if he could go back to Mahanga, because we talked a lot about that and its importance in the origin of the genocide, and he was like, I can't get into the village because no Christian will, you'll just be murdered. But what we agreed on was that he would get as close as he could, and he would launch a drone, because I wanted to show people that how it was geographically positioned to be the command and control, and we did that. One of the ways I began to understand that there was an organization. You see these images of the bodies everywhere and people screaming and and babies that have been killed, and awful videos that I've seen of young pregnant Nigerian girl, Christian girl being beheaded while they cut her baby out at the same time. I mean, I've seen unbelievable things out of there, and when you realize it's not chaotic, actually, it looks chaotic. It's designed to look chaotic, but when you are removing the food supply, not just for a month or a few months, but for the annual food supply. When you're taking away people's ability to stay on the land,
Right.
when you're burning down not just their crops, but their homes, and then you don't allow them to come back. And you're trying to instill terror in them because, let's not forget, Nigeria doesn't have the Second Amendment. So most of these people, the vast majority for 20 plus years have been unarmed, and many of them asleep, right?
Well, Nigeria doesn't have a Second Amendment. They have no Second Amendment. The citizens are not allowed to protect themselves. And so when Nigerian Christians try to protect themselves, a lot of the time, the Nigerian government goes and disarms them, and a week later, they get killed by these Fulani Muslim terrorists with AK-47s and what the Nigerians refer to as sophisticated weapons, military-grade weapons, 50 caliber machine guns. So for some reason, Nigeria doesn't have a Second Amendment, but the terrorists can run around with military-grade weapons with no restriction whatsoever. But the minute Nigerians want to protect their own villages, protect their farms, they get disarmed by the Nigerian government.
The nation of Nigeria, millions of Christians are persecuted by Islamic terror groups. The Nigerian government is doing very little to stop the attacks. Well, now religious freedom advocates, including one member of the U.S. Congress, are taking action. CBN's Kelly Wright has this look at the crisis.
On this very day, 210 persons were slaughtered in one night, in less than 24 hours.
The video from the Father's Day massacre includes graphic images of people being burned alive, families attacked, and homes destroyed in Yelawata, Nigeria.
That very day, it was raining, so Fulani herdsmen, they invaded the community and claimed so many lives.
Around 12 midnight, we started having calls from Yelawata that the Fulanis have come and they are killing, burning.
Friday night, I was sleeping in my house. See my house there. I come here, they shoot gun. Later, they come, they break this house. Prayer, my brother is sleeping here with his children. Thereby, they come, they kill people. They were breaking the house. Say, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar.
These first-hand accounts gathered by Truth Nigeria journalists describe the ongoing atrocities in a terror campaign to eradicate Nigeria's Christians.
All right, have you seen it? Is there anything hidden under the sun? No. An injustice for one always remains an injustice for all. The evil that the Nigerian government have committed so far is too numerous. So thank God for this organization who risked it all to cover all this evil. If not, Nigeria will have been singing the message of propaganda and the world will be listening. Now that the UK have finally come on them, let's wait and see what will be the end of this discussion. Whether the UK will do the needful or they will keep allow the Muslim to keep killing the Christians. Please, if you found this video very helpful, do well to spread this message. Share it widely because the world need to know the truth. So I'm urging you to touch your hand for subscribe button, like, and turn on the notification bell so that whenever we upload a new video like this, you'll be the first person to be notified. Till next time, see you in my next video. Bye for now. Thank you.